I'm situated here on Puckle Street in Moonee Ponds, a suburb whose growth coincided with some of the nation's most auspicious figures, whether it's local resident Dame Nellie Melba, a world-famous opera singer and theatre actress who toured globally at the turn of the century, or even Dame Edna Everage, a character comedian Barry Humphries conjured up to parody the stifling middle class of suburban Australia in the 1950s. While the suburb's historical ties to arts and culture are undeniable, Moonee Ponds didn't have a cinema to call its own for roughly 20 years. This all changed when it received a much-needed boost with the Penny Lane Arcade Precinct, which recently opened with a brand new cinema, Palace Penny Lane. Penny Lane has 11 state-of-the-art auditoriums, each fitted with 4K laser projection, fully reclining leather lounges, and an extensive menu that pairs perfectly with Palace's famous double feature pause. Close to its second anniversary, we're delighted to be hosting today's episode of Short Circuit inside Palace Penny Lane. Our resident expert is the highly accomplished actor and director Sebastian Bertoli, whose science fiction short film Odette offers a compelling snapshot into the ingenuity and craft of sci-fi filmmaking. Let's check out the new cinema and find out more about Sebastian Bertoli's directing work. Hello everyone, or for our German viewers out there, also hello because I don't speak German. Welcome to another edition of Short Circuit. I'm your host, Patrick Scott. This is a program that broadcasts short films by Victorian filmmakers. Each week we're joined by a special guest to chat about a lineup of short films. We're here at Palace Penny Lane, a new cinema inside the Penny Lane Arcade and the first cinema to grace Moonee Ponds for 20 years. It also has a rooftop cinema during the summer months for anyone keen to watch a film under the night sky. This week we're exploring science fiction and taking a glimpse into what the future beholds. Our special guest today is Sebastian Bertoli, an actor, director and producer who has accumulated awards across a range of international festivals such as the Atlantic Bridge Film Festival and Nevada Women's Film Festival. He's also the co-founder of the Panopticon collective with Jeannie Bezidanote, which we'll be chatting about later on. First of all, Sebastian, thank you so much for joining me today on Short Circuit.
Oh, thanks for having me.
I wanted to ask, just to introduce our audiences who might not be familiar, how did you first get interested in filmmaking or working in film, and how did you know it was something you wanted to pursue as a career?
I remember going to the cinema and seeing films as a very, it's probably one of my earliest memories. Seeing such classics like Aladdin and Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, which is a pretty fun and irreverent, historically irreverent film. And just remember watching it and being like, that looks really fun as a job. How do they do that?
Do you remember what age you were when you...
Oh, I would have been, 7.
Okay,
Probably
right,
slightly young for that movie.
Yeah.
But yeah. So just really like formative memories of that sort of stuff. And we were the precocious little kids who'd put on like plays in our living room and like watch and get our friends' parents to come watch us, and would do whatever. We did Apollo 13 in our lounge room.
And you got started in acting, is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I went to drama school right after high school, down in Ballarat. I did 3 years of that full time, and then came out and started working professionally pretty soon after that, which is exciting, and then back to theatre and then TV. And yeah.
Well, we look forward to exploring all of that very shortly throughout the program. Our first short film is called Deep Clean, a 2023 film directed by Luke Morgan and TK Williams from the Strange Paradise production company. In the film, Joe, a dedicated cleaner, finds himself in a battle for his job when his routine is unexpectedly disrupted at the office he's been cleaning for years. Let's take a look.
Hey.
Just the usual, Joe?
Yeah, same old, thanks.
That was Deep Clean, directed and co-written by Luke Morgan and TK Williams, and co-written by Lewis Robert, produced by the team at Strange Paradise, and also starring Dean Gunera as the cleaner. Deep Clean was the semi-finalist at the Very Short Film Festival in 2023. So, Sebastian, as someone who's worked in sci-fi and also in different stylised genres, I'm curious to get your insight. In your own work, what sort of considerations do you have, particularly on a tight budget, when you're trying to develop technology that isn't like available in real life, that's something that you've imagined?
As far as like the technologies available to us, there's some pretty awesome stuff we can do. Like, I mean, we've done some fun things with like 3D printers by printing, sort of like devices and that kind of thing. But I guess what it always comes down to is not including devices and technology for like the sake of, I don't know, like the sake of just sort of like ticking a box of the kind of the gadgetry box. I mean, it's always got to be like linked to story and linked to like the human story beneath it. It's really about what we're trying to do, and often we're trying to control or deal with or process, very human, very, very kind of like things that we've been struggling with for thousands of years. And it just happens to be like a technological kind of veneer on it, but really it's sort of like, the fear of being replaced, the fear of being phased out, which is obviously, I think for me, some of what Deep Clean was experiencing and kind of like was, I guess, exploring. That's an old idea. I mean, it's like the old lion. If the young lion comes on and takes them on, and at some point they lose. Like it's sort of part of that. Yeah, and I think the kind of irreverent way that it was handled in the film is I think very fun, and I think a little bit of thumbing the nose a little bit. I think at the sophistication of AI taking over all our jobs. Like that final moment where it's like rubbing his chest with the sponge is almost nurturing.
And so the threat potentially of technology replacing working class jobs. I'm curious, do you have any, we've heard in like film discourse recently about how the use of AI in filmmaking. Do you have any thoughts about that in particular? Like, would you be for or against it? Is it a tool just to advance the medium, or does it diminish the craft?
I think it diminishes the craft when we try and replace things that are like intrinsically human. Like, I think replacing actors is, I think, a kind of a foolhardy, and I think ultimately a fairly fraught kind of avenue. I mean, like, I understand from a business point of view why that seems so seductive and so useful. But I mean, I think that having unions in place that are fighting against that is massively important, and not because I think they're going to make better work, but it takes jobs away. So I think that's the concern there. The concern there is that there's from a business point of view, there's a big perspective that it's like, oh, we have a solution here to all these people that want money all the time. We will just buy one that we own, and then it'll do whatever we want. And like, yeah, I get it from a business point of view. I just don't think we're going to get good performances. I don't think we're going to get nuanced, interesting performances. Some of the actors that we love to watch do things that are surprising, that we cannot predict, because there's a wildness of human nature that you can't bottle. So that's actors. From other points of view, I think it can be really exciting and interesting. I think that, like, I mean, stuff like Wizards of Oz, for example. The Wizard of Oz, I'm talking about the Michael Shanks, the web series, for example. He did all that stuff on his home computer. Like, he taught himself how to do all that stuff, and it was with technology that was available to consumers, to people in their houses. From a little share house in Melbourne, where they did it all from his room. Like, that's amazing. And so AI is, my hope is that it'll help us move into that territory more and be able to tell stories with, you know, a bit more production value and get to do some really fun stuff with it. But I think as a replacement for, you know, writers and actors and really directors, I don't see how, because at the core of filmmaking is we're telling human stories to each other about ourselves, and AI doesn't have that experience.
So I wanted to shift focus on the acting in this particular short film. So there's obviously very little dialogue, there's a little bit at the end, but for me the acting is one of the key pillars that carry the story, and you have to sympathise with the main performance, otherwise the concept might not work. So I'm curious, from your point of view as someone who's both acted and directed, you've been in front of the camera and behind the scenes, how has your experience in acting informed your ability as a director to shape a performance?
So my experience as an actor, and having, you know, been directed by lots of wonderful, talented and different directors, has given me sort of a real appreciation for the fact that when you direct different actors, you might be in the same movie directing 3 different actors. And I mean, for the feature film I recently shot, I had 3 leads who all worked very differently. There was different language I would use with each of them. They responded in different ways. They would come in either super hot and like be ready to first we do their coverage first if we can, ideally, because they come in super hot, ready to go. Or other ones would take more time to warm up, and so we'd actually work the schedule around that. So for me, one of the most exciting and challenging things is to kind of understand what each actor needs. And I often won't need that. Won't know that until we've been shooting for a number of days or a week or so, or that it's like not on the first project we work on, but on successive projects. For me, I'm kind of like, that's what excites me, to kind of understand, well, how will this actor work? And like, for example, some actors will be like, I just need a scale, I need a dial, right? So just tell me if that was a 4, just tell me it was a 4 and you want an 8. And actually, I've done it before and it works. And so you go, oh, that was a 4, can you bring that up to an 8? Yep, got it. Fair enough. And then for me, that doesn't make any sense. Right. Like, I don't understand what that is as a metric for me personally. But then I'll have like someone, like for example, my creative partner who I started this company with, Jeannie. She's a wonderful director, but she's kind of wild. So she'll do things like, she's like almost Lynchian. She'll walk in and be like, okay, so she'll be like, listen, so you're sitting there and just imagine that everything's normal, and then all of a sudden the walls start to breathe around you. Okay, don't think about it too much, just go for it. And so, and I'll respond to that. I'll kind of get into it, and then I'm like sitting there and we're doing the scene, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh wait. And you kind of breathe into that, and then it just does something different. I have worked with, you know, younger directors or directors in very fixed mindsets who might be very experienced, who just like, I direct this way, and that's how you work. And that can be hard for actors to kind of, you know, to work out, and it's a balance between all of them, of course. I mean, I can't just spend, you know, like this actor needs 4 hours to warm up. I'll give them, obviously I have to work within constraints. But I mean, I find that one of the most exciting things.
We're off to a break here on Short Circuit. Coming up after this is David Musial's The Fading End, and we're chatting more with Sebastian Bertoli. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Short Circuit. We have a thrilling lineup of sci-fi shorts to share today. So let's dive into our second short film. This is the 2023 short film The Fading End, directed by David Musial. We see Jasmine and Lucy sit waiting for the last remaining star in the sky to go supernova and fade away. They discuss the slow and inevitable end of existence brought on by the heat death of the universe. Enjoy.
While we wait, do you want to know a fun fact?
Sure.
Okay. Do you want to know about the entropy of the universe?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the entropy of the universe is always increasing, and you start off with a high energetic field, and then the entropy increases, and then the energy spreads out, and you get a low energetic field. Then we reach a neutral state, and we all die.
No. That's nice.
I thought so.
Do you want to hear a story?
Mm-hmm.
Have I told you a story about Margarita?
Tell me again.
I swear I have. Margarita, está linda la mar y el viento lleva esencia sutil de azar y una gentil princesita, tan bonita Margarita, tan bonita como tú.
Any moment now, according to Hyperwave. The supernova's gonna be brief. 5 seconds of hurrah before it's gone forever.
Yeah, I know. This is silly, you know. Continuing on like this.
What? What do you mean?
Just waiting for it to end. Flickering out unceremoniously.
What? I mean, they say that this is the last star in the universe.
Yeah, but it actually died 1,000 years ago. We're just waiting for the light to reach here, to show us something we already know has happened. It's finished. And it has been for a long time.
Well, it's symbolic. You know, I mean, this is the beginning of the true end of known existence. I mean, stars stopped forming quadrillions of years ago, and there's no more new matter. Eventually, the universe will reach thermodynamic equilibrium. Atoms will stop bonding, and the universe just becomes a cold soup of particles and radiation. The heat death.
I don't want to wait for that.
Well, you don't have to. It's a very long time away. And we haven't needed solar light for millennia, and we've managed to avoid the roaming black holes. The colony will continue on as it always has. Well, in our lifetime at least.
Yeah, but for what? And to what end? I mean, we're not going anywhere. The light has caught up to us, proving it's already over. So why continue on when we know it's destined to end?
Well, even if the universe is destined to end, isn't it still worth enjoying our time in it until that happens?
But once it has become this cold soup, lifeless and energyless, and have been dragged on for longer than it should have. Any kind of enjoyment is impossible. And this has ended a long time ago.
That was The Fading End, directed by David Musial, produced by Chris D'Souza and starring Rebecca Perrick and Julia Samet. The nighttime shoots were filmed across 2 nights and captured using a Sony A7S III camera with low light sensitivity. It screened at the Setting Sun Film Festival in 2023. When you're preparing a film project, particularly one with like a sci-fi concept, is it difficult to balance the emotional weight with, you know, the highfalutin concepts?
No, I think it's a great question. For me, all that sci-fi stories, all the big ones, all the early ones from like The Moon to Metropolis, they've got such a human story at the very centre of them. They are about the struggle, they're about inequality, they're about ambition gone wild, they're about this existential, you know, like with The Fading End, this existential contemplation. I don't see how you could, unless you get super obsessed with the gadgetry. I don't know how you can not have how the emotional weight doesn't take centre stage. I mean, they're such human sort of centric stories, but I think the balance is I think it's intrinsic. It's intrinsic in there. All the sci-fi, all the technology that we've developed in real life and in theoretical is all us trying to work out how do we live longer, how do we escape death. How do we face the end, which is obviously what we just watched with The Fading End, and how do we move beyond, move past grief? How do we remain connected? And that's all. I mean, those are very, very old and kind of eternal themes.
So this particular short film, as we mentioned, it was shot over, I think, 2 nights in a suburban backyard. You work as a sessional tutor at RMIT. And one of your courses is actually called Constraints as Creative Fuel. So I'm curious to get your insight. How do you think having those tight constraints on a film set can actually trigger creativity?
It forces you to be lateral in your thinking and to make choices that you wouldn't necessarily choose. There's an incredibly interesting a film called The Five Obstructions, Lars von Trier. I don't know if you're familiar with this one, but Lars von Trier, he has this kind of experiment with his old mentor, Jørgen Leth, a very famous Danish filmmaker and I think former teacher of his. And he sets him all these tasks to remake this film he made many years ago. And in each task he has these sort of cruel sets of constraints and ideas. You know, like for example, the first one is like he has to shoot it with no shot more than 12 frames. So everything's like half a second. Every shot's half a second in full, at length. And it has this incredible, beautiful kind of structure and rhythm, which he wouldn't have found if he didn't have that he responded to it and went, oh wait, and paired sound design with it to make it really beautiful and kind of this rhythmic musicality to it. But one of them he sets, which is the cruelest one, is that he gives him no constraints at all. He says, you can shoot whatever you want, wherever you want. You can remake this film of yours. And it's the least interesting. It's the weakest of all of them. And this guy who set the task, Jørgen, has this terrible time has a terrible experience and makes a pretty mid film. We never see the whole thing, we only see a bit of it. And it's kind of a bit of a yawn fest because he's kind of unfettered and unmoored and kind of drifts into I don't know, like kind of just wanders out and gets lost. And so these constraints that, I talk about in the course that I teach, and that obviously is, inspired by the 48-Hour Film Project, which I've made a lot of shorts with, and in fact, Odette was made as part of it. That is a thing that you are given these things to respond to, and your response to it is really basically like the constrictions and constraints are a catalyst for creative innovation, is basically the thrust of it. Choosing, well, I want to make a movie that explores this, that is already a constraint. It's not like I'm going to make a film about anything with anyone in it for any amount of time. It's not a way to make a film. So we need to respond to something. As humans, we need a stimulus. For example, they're shooting this thing all at night. They're shooting on an A7S. They're shooting over 2 nights. And they're going, well, we have all these things, and I don't know, obviously, much about the filmmakers and about that process exactly, but I mean, their response to that is they have a contained, focused, intimate kind of thing where there was a container for 2 days of this energy with these 2 actors being very close and very kind of intensely in this little kind of crucible. And I mean, it's a beautiful sort of place to create that from, as opposed to like if they'd shot, it over like 7 nights shooting it over and over and over, getting lots and lots of coverage. It's a little different. The energy dissipates a bit more. There's less of can be less of an intensity of her experience. And, the performances in this film are very intense and very focused.
Short Circuit will be going to a commercial break. After this, we're chatting with Seb Bertoli about his own short film, Odette. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Short Circuit. I'm your host, Patrick Scott, and yes, I am AI. It's time for our last short film, directed by our special guest today from 2024. We're very lucky, as this is one of the first looks audiences get to see of this short film. It's called Odette. It's about a brilliant but work-obsessed scientist who's consumed by her work, but must face the memories of her lost daughter and reckon with the painful consequences of sacrificing motherhood for her career. Take a look.
Mom,
Yep.
look.
In a second, darling, I just have to do something.
Please, Mom.
God, brilliant!
Mom. Mom. Mom.
I'm trying to think.
The air leaks have been happening more and more frequently.
I know. Well, I'm here, aren't I? Bullshit.
No, it is not. Look, you're scared. And I get that. But we need to figure out how to fix this. Now, we're partners, so let's just try and fix this. Or do you want to live in a world where you can't go outside because the air is toxic?
You're just some arrogant little assistant who's trying to tell me how to do my job.
It's reacting to you.
I don't want to have to think about it today, Clay.
Only you can fix this. You need to let it show you how to fix this.
Odette?
Oh, there you are. I was hoping to get going before the fog hit.
Pick a number.
Not now, darling.
Fine.
3. Red.
Better luck next time.
Are you alright, Mum?
Yes. Okay. Shoes.
You can't coddle her like this. You're going to create a needy child who can't look after herself.
What are you talking about?
You can't live like this.
Mum, take a breath.
This is my fault.
How could you have stopped this?
This is my life's work, Odette. I'm a scientist.
That was a long time ago. Everything's fine. It's fine. Mom? You're scaring me.
I have to fix this.
Are you okay?
That was Odette, directed by Sebastian Bertoli, produced by Dia Taylor and written and starring Jeannie Bezidanote, alongside Claire Larman and Florence Juliet. This so far featured at the 48-hour film project in Melbourne, but the fact we're the first people who get to see the latest work from the Panopticon collective team is a special treat. We're thrilled to get the chance to chat with Sebastian now. I'm curious, so this particular short film screened at the 48-hour film project in Melbourne. How much can you prepare for a short film like this when you've only got 48 hours to work on it?
How much can you prepare? Well, I mean, obviously you choose your actors. So you choose your actors ahead of time, so you sort of have an understanding of what the dynamic might be, potentially. And, you know, Jeannie writes, so my creative partner, she writes most of the stuff that we shoot. Well, sometimes we write together. But she writes most of it, and we talk about themes and ideas before it, but really we're just waiting to get that genre. We get assigned 2 genres, and we can combine them or choose one or the other. We went with climate film and sci-fi. And yes, the themes that Jeannie and I have been speaking about were we had a lot of parenthood sort of stuff and that kind of, and we didn't necessarily lock it in, but we've been talking about that. We've been talking about a couple other things, and when that landed, we realised, oh wow, I mean, what if your job was the future of humanity, like the most important things? What else is more important than trying to work at the future, leaving a future for our descendants?
And for me, it really negotiates the tension between individual responsibility on action toward climate change versus collective action and what we're able to do as a society. What do you hope audiences take away from this particular short film in terms of its urgency toward climate change?
With anything that we make, I want the audience to be able to resonate with these characters, even if they are in situations or in jobs or in a kind of a circumstance that is maybe heightened or not part of their kind of common lived experience. I want them to be able to resonate with sort of the experience of having a parent who's ambitious and they are a lot of the time more focused and more enmeshed in their work life than they are in their personal life, and how that's not a reflection on the child, but it also affects the kids. To your question about sort of individual and collective responsibility, I mean, I think that we absolutely need to do what we can. I mean, as far as what we can do for sort of government policy, that is incredibly hard. It's a hard thing to kind of to measure and to manage. When there are people in power that don't prioritise that.
In Odette, you're actually working. There's the young Odette is your daughter. Is that correct? Yeah. So what was the inspiration to casting your own daughter in this particular film?
She had been in a film that we did previously. She was just her as a baby. She played one little line. And she'd been in another film, and she was about 2, I think, when she was in a friend of mine's film. And she expressed interest in wanting to be in films, and we said, oh, fair enough. That was a tricky shoot because, I mean, we shot her scenes at like 1 a.m. And so she's sort of sitting there kind of passing out, and then she's like, wake up, get on set, do her thing, and then kind of lie back down and watching, I can't remember, they're watching some cartoon on an iPad, just like kind of passing out and waking up again. And she was an absolute champ. She was very focused and very kind of driven kid, as long as she wants to do it. And if she decides one day she doesn't want to, we say, fantastic. There are a lot of other, more sort of stable jobs.
We're off to our last break for Short Circuit. Stick around, we're chatting more with Sebastian Bertoli about his production company, Panopticon Collective. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the program. It's been a pleasure to have your company today. For those who don't know, today we're inside Palace Penny Lane, a new cinema in the Penny Lane Arcade Precinct that has a wide variety of retail and hospitality that's been a real shot in the arm for Moonee Ponds. We're chatting with Sebastian Bertoli. I'm really curious, so you co-founded your production company, Panopticon Collective. How did that first come about, and what are some of the overall objectives that the company hopes to achieve?
So we started back in 2012, 2013. Ginny and I started putting theatre on, started doing plays, and then we started making films under the banner of Panopticon Collective. We've both been making films before we met sort of independently. We met about a year before that. And we just kept making shorts together. We stopped making theatre. We love theatre. We'd love to go back at some point to work in theatre, although I don't know, as far as I feel like the company's now become a screen production company. The future of Panopticon Collective, look, we just made our first feature. We shot that end of 2013 to 2023 to 2024. Hasn't been that long. And it's currently in post. I'm more sort of feature film focused, and Jeannie's getting more focused now on television. She's sort of working in writers' rooms and that. Basically, the future of the company is that we're moving on to bigger projects, bigger sort of in scope and in size. So we've got a slate of TV projects which we've taken to market and have got some interest from, and sort of at different sort of stages, and a couple of feature films as well. But currently the main focus is finishing our feature that we're on right now.
We have a lot of young up-and-coming filmmakers watching this program. I'm sure, the insights you've shared with us are very valuable to that audience. Do you have any advice to them, people coming up through to the industry, about filmmaking and how to get their projects up and running?
I kind of go back to when I was at drama school, actually, as an actor. And, I love actors and I love acting. I don't love the industry. the actors that are some of the most disempowered members of the kind of film industry, in that they work for free a lot of the time, understanding that they're doing it for the exposure, for the footage, and so it's a very hard job. And we were told at drama school, don't expect people to be knocking down your door. No one knows or really cares who you are. Make your own stuff. Go make your own stuff. Go make all your own, your own theatre. Go devise your own shows. And as a result, it's Jeannie and I both came from it as actors, and realised that we wanted to tell stories that we were passionate about. Especially Jeannie, who was like, and these roles are ridiculous that I'm going out for. I'm going out for like period self in a commercial. It's like a woman who's like really sweaty and like no makeup and looks awful because this is me on my period. This is honestly like. It is an incredible job. The acting, the craft is beautiful, but the industry is pretty rough. And she's like, well, this seems dumb. So we started writing stories about things that we're passionate about and things that we, writing roles we wanted to play. I guess what I'm saying is, like, now more than ever, yes, of course, the saturated market, of course, it's even harder to be heard. Absolutely, sure. But also you can make stuff and make it and keep making stuff to keep developing and growing your voice. Yeah, the first thing you make is going to blow up. We've been making stuff for 10 years, and we've finally made a feature, and we're finally starting to get some, recognised in the industry and starting. But even so, sometimes you'll find amongst maybe, how do I put this delicately? Amongst independent filmmakers, potentially, sometimes your peers can be a bit rough because everyone's trying to kind of like get to kind of the next little bit, and there's, they feel like there's a feeling of scarcity that goes around. But when you get to that next level and you start working with more senior producers and they're actually all pretty lovely because you're not a threat to them. Like, what I'm saying is, once you start breaking into these bigger kind of places and these bigger, more established kind of worlds, someone lifted them up too. So like, it's just about kind of developing your voice now, making lots of stuff now. Don't worry about competing with everyone else who's like at this level. Don't stress about it. Be competitive with yourself. Try a new thing. With every project you make, try a new thing, yeah?
One final question before we wrap up, and we really appreciate your time as well. You mentioned earlier that you're working on a feature film. Yeah. Are there any other projects you could possibly tease any details about, or is there like potentially a release date in mind for that feature film?
So currently it's still in post-production now. We don't know what the release date is just yet. We're still kind of working that out. We do have interest, which is exciting, but we've got to get the edit finished before we can we know more about that. But I mean, go to our website, go to Instagram to sort of see more about that. 2 shorts are doing the festival circuit right now. Actually, both of those are directed by Jeannie, who normally writes for us, but she directed both of those. One's actually kind of sci-fi, film about a woman, a woman and a young girl who live in a forest, and the girl is taught that there are monsters outside. She can't leave. And then there's that's called Master Away from the Light. And then the other one is a fantasy about a character I play, actually, who goes to the other side to rescue or to claim back his wife who's died. So that's a fantasy, and that's a very kind of different kind of film. So they're both currently doing the festival circuit. Odette's obviously going to do the festivals circuit as well after the premiere on this, which is very exciting. And then I've got another short I shot, which is, man, it's really sci-fi, Sitting in the Wings. It's like a sci-fi musical about a stand-up comedian who realizes her audience is on this drug that makes them laugh uncontrollably and kind of like loses hope. It's fun. It's a musical, but with like heavy metal songs.
That's all we have time for on today's episode of Short Circuit. It's been a delight chatting with Sebastian Bertoli of the Panopticon Collective and getting his insights into the film industry. I'd also like to express our thanks to the filmmakers for sharing their short films with us today. And of course, the team at Palace Penny Lane for allowing us to host today's episode from their wonderful venue. We'll have another terrific lineup of short films next week. Until then, Auf Wiedersehen. Oh wait, I do know German.